Hey everybody, this is Curtis from PSNstores.com, and today we are looking at Dariusburst Chronicle Saviours. Uh, there's a lot to this. So Dariusburst, it's kind of weird because part of this is kind of like a port of the old arcade game, and there's a lot of stuff there, and we'll get into that in the later half of this video. But there's also this this Chronicle Saviours mode, which is brand new. It's a whole new mode to the game. So Darius is a kind of old school arcade shmup, one that I've never played until this version, and I am already in love with it. So we're just gonna jump into this. So the CS mode is it's probably where, see, I would say this is where you're gonna spend the bulk of your time, but it's probably not because you'll see later there's an even bigger, crazier mode. But this is apparently this is like a story mode that kind of goes through the history of Darius. I'm not super familiar with like the story there, but I guess if you've been playing Darius for a while, maybe that means a lot to you. Whereas someone like me who's kind of new to this, it's like, okay, that's kind of cool. But as you have these different nodes, and as you're completing them, they're different challenges. Some of them's like, okay, we're gonna go through these 6 set of levels that you see in the bottom left. And it will have like the difficulty rating. It'll show you I've completed 21 out of the 30 that I've unlocked so far. But some of these will give you a little description. So it's like Darius year 1906, June. It has been 1 year since war broke out, and many planets are still under Belsar control. Planet Saviors must free mankind. So a lot of the story you're kind of getting through those. Sometimes there's there's dialogue that's going through as you're playing a stage. So we're gonna go ahead and jump off into this first one. So you can go with your preset ship. The preset you can see on the bottom right, that is the legend ship, and then it also has like things that are relevant to this challenge. So like there are all power-ups drops or something like that, right? Then it has your high score. You also, okay, so here is, typically I kind of like to do preset because I feel like that's what it's balanced for. But you can also go here to unlock different ships. And what I did last night is as you're playing through, you're getting these points, and you can use that to unlock ships. So there's like, this one is I can actually unlock this second right here. So we'll do that. And each of these ships, they're specifically is like their special attack, their burst attack as it's called, is unique. Usually it's unique to each ship, so each ship has a special one, and we'll show some of those. But what you can do is you can, as you're playing the game, you're collecting power-ups, and these power-ups are making your weapon stronger, making like your missiles better. It's increasing your shield. And depending on how many points you have, you can actually spend those points to just start out at like different tiers. So this blue is your shield, so I can like boost that up. I can boost up like my main weapon to get like a higher rank to start out at the very beginning. So if you actually have a lot of points, as you saw here on this one, I just like boosted everything. I got it as high as it could go, and that kind of makes it a little easier. So maybe you probably don't want to do that unless you're like stuck on a level. But you can if you want, so that's pretty cool. But we're just gonna go with the preset.
This one's for the fighters. This one's for the soldiers. This one's for the warriors. Freedom. This one's for the
So the music in Dariusburst is, in my opinion, incredible. I think this year has been really good for like just the music in a lot of the games I've played this year has been pretty stellar. Like we're kind of getting to the point in the year where we're putting together like, okay, what are we gonna, what categories are we gonna do for like our game of the year stuff for the site. And I've been thinking about like what would be like, what's my favorite game, like what's the game with the best soundtrack, for instance. And this game, I feel like it's come out of nowhere, and it's like, oh no, this game's got great music too. There's like 50 of them now. So this track, Freedom, this is the only level I've played that has this song. Apparently it's like a love or hate it thing. I was reading up on it last night. I love it. I think it's great. There is a ton of, I don't know how much music is in this game, but it feels like there's a ton, and all of it's been great. Like, I feel like every challenge I've played has had a different track or something even just like slightly different. And I've played a lot of this game so far, so I don't know if it just, I don't know, like it just, I feel like I've barely heard any repeated tracks so far, and it's awesome, and it's just all been so good. This is one of, I think maybe one of a couple that has had vocals in it. So anyways, so as you see here, I've got on the top left, that is kind of, that's where you see your weapons and your shield and rating, and I've been picking up power-ups here. On the bottom left, we have my burst meter, so I can hit L1, and that will lay down. I'm just calling it a turret. I don't know what the actual name is, but that kind of lays down a thing that's like charged, like that's shooting lasers on its own. Or, and then that you saw that drain my meter, and so I'll build that up over time again. Or I can hold X, and that'll actually shoot a laser from the ship itself. Apparently, and I'll try to do it in the video, I haven't been able to do it yet, because I didn't really know it was even a thing until after I finished playing last. Apparently these boss enemies you can counter, kind of missed it there. They'll shoot lasers of their own, like they'll charge up these lasers and shoot it at you. And I guess there's a warning, there's like a tell, where you'll hear like a click or a beep sound. And if you time it right, you can counter, and then your lasers will like overpower the boss, and you'll do like a ton of damage to it. So I haven't been able to try that yet, so I'll try to do it in the video if I can. Let's see, the top middle is kind of the sector that you're in, the zone, and you'll move through multiple zones as you're playing each challenge. The arm 12, that's your shield, and so that's kind of how many hits you can take. The 2 is the amount of lives you have. Score should be self-explanatory. Yeah, so I think this, I'm super into just how the game looks. I think it looks really nice. A lot of the visual effects and everything looks cool. I love the big warning whenever a boss is showing up. Really like that. I just love the enemy design. It's got a very, there's like this aquatic theme to a lot of the enemies, especially like all the bosses are some sort of marine life. So you've got like sharks and there's like a blowfish. There's I think there's a lionfish at some point. I don't know. There's like some of the other like regular enemies. There's a seahorse. Just here it is. Right on time. I was mentioning I was streaming it last night, and I mentioned perhaps it's a weird comparison, but it kind of makes me think of Mega Man. And the way there are a lot of like the Mega Man boss enemies. Some of them were based on like animals. And so having all these bosses based off like aquatic life, like there's a turtle, there's a whale, I've seen like jellyfish. So having that has been kind of cool to see, just because I feel like it gives some personality to these enemies. Like I think it really just adds to their overall feel of the game. Like look at this guy. This guy is awesome. It's probably one of the coolest bosses I've fought all year. And then the music just kicks in, and it's the greatest. One thing I appreciate is I was expecting this to be, and maybe it does in some of the harder difficulties that you can get into. I was expecting it to be like super insane kind of bullet hell shooter. It can get pretty intense, but it hasn't gotten to the point where it's just like the entire screen is filled with like bullets and stuff. Alright, so here it is. Oh, I switched. Okay, I missed it. So I think if you listen, you could hear like beeps. I think it's on the third beep. If you fire your laser, you can overcharge it. So we'll try to pull that off at some point. Yeah, just listen to this music. So anyways, we'll exit out of this so I can show the other mode. But as you see here, like as you're completing these, specifically these larger nodes, when you complete them, they'll branch off and unlock different challenges for you. There actually is one I do want to show, but you kind of see how much I've done so far. Apparently, there is over 200 of these challenges in this mode. So yeah, and I mean, this, even just doing enough to unlock, what have I done, like 30? I've unlocked 30. I've completed 21. Like, that took a few hours to do. So this is like, even this alone, there's a lot to this, and it's going to take a lot of time to get through all of it. So this is so you saw that the one I just did, it was just kind of a series of levels, and you had a boss fight in between some of them. This one's really cool. I've only run into a couple of these, but I hope there's a lot more. This is kind of like, you're defending the left side of the screen. There's like a barrier that you're trying to keep enemies away from. And so if an enemy gets by you and they hit this barrier, the health of the barrier will drain. And so you're not only trying to kill these enemies in the time limit you're given, but you're also trying to protect that barrier. The barrier, obviously those bullets are hitting that barrier, that's fine. That's not a big deal if those get hit, or if those hit the barrier, but it's specifically if the enemies get by you. So this stage is like, this isn't too hard because it's the first one. I did run into a second one of these that was a little tougher. But I just like this mode. I like just having various different types of modes, like something a little bit different to kind of just change up the pace a little bit. So I'm hoping there's more of these. Because again, I've only run into 2 so far. Oh, and this track is good too. It's like all the music in this game is so good. It's ridiculous how good this is. I think this is the last wave. I love the names of the bosses, like Lightning Claw, Iron Shell, or Iron Fossil. There's, what is it? There's something King. So there is I don't know the exact number of bosses, but there's a good amount of them, and there's also like a ton of different variants for them. So like, I'll fight this boss, and maybe you'll see him again, but the next time you fight him, he'll have totally different attacks. The battle will play out pretty differently. There's this one boss I fought a number of times, and I have fought the same type of that boss a little more than I would like, but like, I feel like every time he shows up, it's a different version of that boss. So once again, it's cool to have those variants. It's cool to have, just different little things that they change up each time, just to make things feel a little bit different. Alright, so with that, we're going to jump to the other mode of this game. And then, hopefully you'll start to see just how much stuff there is to do in this. So we're gonna back out. Alright, so we have AC mode. This is kind of your arcade cabinet mode. Pay attention to cabinet number. So you see I'm cabinet number 1 right now, and we'll get into that a little bit later. So this is going to launch us into a kind of a port of the arcade version. So this is, I don't remember the exact resolution it's running at, but you'll notice there's gonna be some big black bars. There's some letterboxing because it's representative of the arcade cabinet, which had these really long screens. So it's one of those things where if you're like really into this, you might even consider getting the PC version because you can set up like dual monitors and you can kind of take advantage of this long screen. But one thing I do like, even though I just have one TV here, so it's kind of weird having like just this huge letterbox effect going on, which is fine. But it's cool because like when you compare the two, this version has so much more room on the screen to like have different enemy patterns and different things going on. And so we have these, so we have original mode, which we launch into. You can do just your regular entry or infinite ships. And so what you have you can start out in a zone, and as you're moving on, you get choices of like, okay, if I start out in zone B, once I finish B, I can go to E or F, and then I can move on from there. And like the higher up you are, the easier the difficulty is. The lower you go, the harder it is. Then you have these cards, which are not translated, but that's I guess that's okay. So the tricky thing here is there's some sort of bug. I'm guessing it's a bug. I don't think it's intentional. When you go into this arcade cabinet mode, at least on PS4, you can't back out of it. Like any button you press takes you forward, and so it's hard to back out. So we're gonna play one stage here, and then hopefully once we quit, it should put us back at that main area, because there is one other major thing I want to show. So as you see, this is pretty much, gameplay-wise, it's going to be pretty similar to the other mode we were playing. The power-ups and everything works the same. Some of the HUD's a bit different. Again, this game, each mode supports up to 4 players locally. So I haven't played multiplayer yet, but I imagine that would be pretty fun. But this is, I'm not typically someone who... I never really went like with a dual monitor setup or anything. I've never really done that with any game or just anything at all. And so playing this last night was one of the first times I've ever really been like, man, I wish I could set up like 2 monitors for this. Man, I kind of wish I had this on PC and had 2 monitors to play this like across 2 screens and really just soak all this in or something, or just have like a really long monitor. I'm doing really bad right now. But yeah, this is pretty cool. So I guess while we're doing this, the cabinet thing is weird, and it's not really explained in the game, and I think it's tough, because I think if you've played Darius a lot, or if you're kind of familiar with this kind of game, you probably don't need any sort of tutorial or any sort of like manual in the game. But for someone like me, or someone who's getting into this and like has not really played this at all ever, or doesn't have a lot of isn't really familiar with this kind of game, I think it would help to have just a pretty simple little manual or something explaining certain things. Specifically, I think it would do well for them to explain the cabinets, because it's not explained and I had to go read up on it. But I'm glad I did, because it's super cool. So what happens when you start up the game, you are assigned to a cabinet. There's like 60 some cabinets, I think. And each cabinet, you're randomly assigned to it. So I was just assigned to 32, and then I switched to cabinet 1 before knowing what it actually did. But players are randomly assigned to each cabinet, and what happens is it's kind of the deal where everyone's working together to unlock more content. And so we'll go into this mode after this, where... Crap. You can hit L2 to continue. I don't think there's, other than just, being able to say, hey, I finished this without dying or without doing a continue, I don't think there's any negative effect there. Maybe some trophies, but no, so when we go into this mode, you'll go into this, this kind of grid, and there'll be a bunch of challenges, and some of them are locked, and some, will be liberated. And so by playing a challenge, you'll liberate an area, and when you do that, you unlock new challenges. And the game is going to it's keeping track of what you're doing, but also the progress people are making on your cabinet as well. And so everyone's going to be playing together, playing these challenges, getting high scores, competing, doing high score races with everyone else. But also, as you're playing through and completing these challenges, it's going to be unlocking new things for everyone on your cabinet, and you can switch cabinets at any point. So you might be on cabinet, I don't know, like 12 or something, and then maybe someone you know is on cabinet 8, and they're like, no, you need to come to 8 because there's a really cool challenge you should check out, and then you can just switch it at any point. So we'll show that in a bit. Someone pointed this out on stream. I kind of like that they just have the arcade cabinet like game over thing of like, hey, watch your head when you stand up. Alright, so let's jump into this and let's show off what this is. So this is Chronicle Mode. Original EX is like even harder versions of the original mode. Event Mode, I don't know much about. It's not available. Apparently it's like a thing that you were able to download stages for, but I guess they haven't used it yet. Alright, so this is what I guess cabinet 1 looks like so far. So it shows the percent liberated, occupied 30. I'm assuming that's how many people are in this cabinet. So as you see, some people have already started working on liberating these things. So it's gonna show, let's see. It's kind of tough because, again, because of the resolution you're working with. If you're not like doing dual screen, and I imagine on Vita it's even worse, it's gonna be kind of hard to see, actually, to read that small text. But each of these challenges have rules applied to them and things you've got to kind of abide by. I think you saw this one. This one's one I did last night, and so you see like that's my high score, but then it's also the world high score is, I guess, in cabinet 11. So the high scores are going to go across every cabinet. It's not just specific to that one that you're in. Let's see. Let's try this one. I don't think anyone's done this yet. So we can change different ships. So this cabinet mode's really cool, right? I really like when games kind of do this where they put people together, and it's not really multiplayer. It's more like the asynchronous multiplayer where, like, okay, as you're doing things and playing the game, not only are you progressing and getting better and unlocking new things to do, but you're also unlocking things for everybody to do, right? Like it's a more of a global kind of cooperative multiplayer where everyone's working together to unlock new things, which is pretty cool. The crazy part of it, and it's something that I mean, all I really can go off of is just what people have been saying and what has been said, just in like PR stuff. It's like like the publisher coming out and saying, yeah, this is what you're looking at for this cabinet mode. Apparently there are over 3,000 stages in this mode. I don't know if that, I don't know what that means. I don't know if that's just like, yeah, like there's a lot of like kind of random generation. I don't know if they're all, like, all the enemy patterns are handcrafted to be unique. I imagine each level is probably pretty different. I mean, I think you have, like, you got to think about, okay, each one's going to have different rule sets. So some of them are going to have, like, all item drops. Some of them are going to have no power-ups. Some of them are going to maybe be a boss rush. So I think that alone allows things to be pretty different. You probably have some different, maybe set enemy patterns they can throw at you. You've got a pretty good amount of bosses and different variants on each boss to work with. So, I mean, I guess if you start doing the math, you could see where there's a lot of potential to have pretty different scenarios. But I think when you put that stuff together, when you put up, like, okay, when you think, okay, this cabinet mode, because of how many stages there are, and also because people are going to be working together, that's a lot. Like, and that's going to take a lot of time to actually see everything. And it's just it's a pretty cool concept anyways. So you consider that, and then you could also consider, like, okay, there's original and then EX original mode. And that's probably going to take some time to actually finish and then get really good so that you're beating the harder difficulties without using, like, 7 continues. And then you consider, alright, then there's also this Chronicle Savior mode, which is more like a 16:9 resolution, and that's got its own story, and there's like 200 stages in that. And then you think, like, all those stages are different. They have their own different like rule sets and different things that you have to go by, and then those have like different modes to them. So there's that like defender mode we were showing earlier, and then those you're gonna have these bosses as well. You have different enemy patterns, and then you've got a bunch of unlockable ships, and then each ship plays differently. They all have their own bursts, and then it's like, yeah, and then you've got this great soundtrack with a number of a ton of different tracks in this, to the point when it's really only when I'm fighting these bosses that I'm hearing music that I recognize over and over again. It feels like each stage has at least a somewhat unique track. Like, you start adding it together and it's like, oh my god, this is a lot. There's a lot to this game. And this is coming from someone like me who doesn't have a lot of familiarity with these kind of releases, right? I've played the occasional shmup, but nothing quite like this. And so maybe I'm not the best to compare. Like, I'm not gonna be your hardcore shmup person who's like, yeah, I can compare like Darius and all the different Dariuses and like this release, and then there's also the other kinds of shmups out there. So I don't know how those compare, but this on its own stands to have like a pretty crazy amount of content, and I think I think it probably speaks to just the quality of the game that someone like me who is pretty inexperienced at games like this is within a couple hours able to get super into it. Excuse me. It's like the fact that, like, again, like, I mean, even just an hour into it, I was invested. I was ready. Like, I was super excited, just having a lot of fun with it, like really into the music. This has been pretty hard to put down since I started playing about a day ago. Let's see if I can weave in and out of here. Okay, not too bad. So you get to the discussion, I guess, the thing that I've seen a lot of people bring up. The PS4 version of this game is $60. On Vita, I believe it's $40. It's not cross-buy. There is cross-save, though. So that is probably not an easy price to swallow, I imagine. And it's tough. We've had this conversation a lot. And I don't feel like I can tell you, yes, it's worth your money, because ultimately that's for you to decide. And I don't know... And, you know, we got a review code, so I feel like I probably can't like properly state whether or not I feel like $60 is worth it, because like I got a code for this, I didn't pay for it, so I don't know how I would feel. Like if I paid for it, I would probably still be loving the game. I don't think that would change. But because I haven't, you know, we got codes for it, I don't know how I would feel. Like, that's kind of my stance on that more often than not. That said, this game's awesome. Like, and I think that's probably the type of thing where that price is maybe worth it for like a hardcore shmup fan. I'm just doing terrible right now. Like, I think if you're someone that's like super into this kind of game and you're gonna buy all of them anyways, just to buy them, especially something like this that apparently this version of the game was just never brought over to the US. It's
probably worth it to you, right? Like, whereas maybe someone like me.
And again, I'm loving this, right? But I think someone who maybe doesn't play a lot of shmups, right? Maybe he's not super into them. Maybe that price is a little tougher to a pill to swallow there. But I think he's doing awful on this guy. Oh man, yeah. But at any rate, like I'm loving this. This is awesome. I'm having a lot more fun than I actually expected I would. Like, I figured this is probably a pretty good game, you know, I'll check it out and see what it's all about, but it did not take long to get super into this. And it's really, like, it's a great example of one of those games that just, like, everything has come together. Again, just soundtrack, but just the way it looks, like the enemy designs, just actually playing the game as well, like all of it just comes together in a really good way. Just the content, just like there's so much here. There's so much to go through. It's crazy. But that is Dariusburst Chronicle Saviours. Oh my god, yeah, thanks for watching. It is out now, available on PS4 and Vita. It's also on PC. But that's gonna do it for this video. There was a lot to show, so hopefully I did a pretty good job of explaining it all. Again, it's $60 on PS4. I believe it's $40 on Vita. Again, not cross-buy, but there is cross-save. I don't know. I've heard good things about the Vita version. I've seen a few people, specifically in the NeoGAF thread, saying that the Vita version runs pretty nice. I was a little concerned, specifically this arcade mode with the letterboxing, that it might be a little tough, maybe to see things well on the Vita. But I've just seen a few comments, like 3 or 4 posts in the GAF thread that of people being pretty positive on the Vita version, so that's pretty good. This seems like a game that would be a really good fit for the Vita, and I think it's Vita TV supported too. But at any rate, this is the game. That's it. I'm loving it. The review will be coming hopefully in the next day or so. But once again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all later.